Yeah. Yeah. Can you believe they told me that I would never make it? Now we smiling in their faces, smiling in their faces.
And listen, we all love the Joker, but we got to give Rudy his flowers. He was the reason the Joker only played good. He did not. He played solid, and he had a couple bad games.
Jokic, he's going to have this on his resume, and it'll either be a blip if he has success, which I'd still imagine. He's 31 in February here.
I think in order to keep advancing, you have to play great. He played good, but good is not good enough.
Now, Nikola Jokic has been getting his name dragged all through the mud lately after this loss, especially since it's kind of like an upset because a lot of people had Denver winning this series, and especially with Anthony Edwards going down, you would think that the Denver Nuggets were going to win this by a long shot. And honestly, a lot of these haters have been waiting for this moment to kind of just finally tell you how they really feel about Nikola Jokic. Now, don't get it twisted. Jokic is a great player, right? I don't think he's not a great player, but I don't think he's on the level of an all-time great center in NBA history. Now, a part of that to me is this era. Jokic benefits from playing in a small ball era where teams don't have dominant bigs like they used to. And defensively, that's exactly where he lacks. I don't think Jokic is strong enough compared to those NBA legend centers like Kareem, like Moses Malone, Wilt, and Shaq. But there's a part that makes his case actually interesting. So a lot of those all-time great bigs had help, right? We can never say that. Now, comparing, Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray to these guys will make you kind of laugh, right? So let's just go down the list, man. If we're talking about top 10 all-time players, we're talking about all-time bigs, right? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he had Oscar Robertson, he had Magic Johnson. Shaq had Kobe Bryant, he had Dwayne Wade. Wilt Chamberlain had Elgin Baylor, he had Jerry West. Moses Malone had Julius Erving, and Jokic has had none of players on that type of level when it comes to being his supporting cast or his number two guy. So there is where I kind of give Nikola Jokic his credit, is that Denver Nuggets organization is not building the right squad around him. And even the moves they've made this past offseason, they've looked on paper to improve the team, but to me that they don't move the needle enough to make him have a championship roster on his team. So when you look at his resume, it's legit, right? He's had real playoff success. He swept LeBron, Anthony Davis, and then he beat LeBron and Anthony Davis again in the gentleman's sweep. If you look at, he's won a championship without an all-star teammate. I mean, Western Conference, finals. He's had consecutively led teams to the playoffs on top of 3 MVPs, a finals MVP, a ring. So when you compare him to this generation, he's right on par, right? Like, to me, if you look at his his peers that are dominating this era, right? We can look at it. We could say Luka Doncic, we could say Giannis Antetokounmpo, we could say SGA, right? To me, he's right on the money with those kind of guys. Now, it's not his fault that the media and that his numbers are so great that people kind of propelled him to be like, this guy that's, I guess, playing out of his mind. But just because you can play out of your mind doesn't mean you're as great as an all-time great center. And like I said in the beginning of this video, I think that has a lot to do with the era that he plays in. But here's where things take a left. So his stats are so crazy that people started to put Nikola Jokic over players like Shaq. And I think what happens is when we start putting him over players like Shaq, it creates unrealistic expectations. So when he plays bad, like in this series, it looks like, well, this player is never going to be on that type of caliber of a level player, even though he choked. Yeah, he didn't play well, but you can call it what it is. This is the first time we've seen Nikola Jokic really play this bad. But what really makes my eyes look and say, I don't know if he can last in a different era is because Rudy Gobert is kind of like a traditional center. Now, if Jokic is not playing against traditional centers pretty much most of his career, then how can we put him against the greats of the past that had a battle against all-time great centers? I mean, you got Shaq battling David Robinson, you got Patrick Ewing battling Hakeem Olajuwon. Like, these are the great big men battles. And I think even players like Joel Embiid, who really play well against Jokic, I think that they kind of have a real good kind of rivalry there. But, I mean, Embiid plays really well against him. And I think there's not too many of those centers who are that great. Now we have Victor Wembanyama and now, with Joel Embiid. But we don't get too many of those guys. Like, I think even like an Anthony Davis, he's more so of a power forward instead of a center. But to my knowledge, I think these are the reasons why it's hard for us to assess his career because of what he's playing in. But for me, I don't think it's fair to put Jokic in the GOATs of centers as much as he's having an amazing season. Again, averaging a triple-double, did it, I think, 2 seasons in a row. As much as he's doing amazing things, like I'm never going to take away from that, I don't think it's fair to me to put him in that conversation as all-time great centers. And the reason why I think that is because, pretty much what I explained this whole video, I'm not going to repeat myself, but also I just think he fits in with this generation of superstars. It's the Giannis's, the SGAs, even like the Lucas, like that's his lane. And I think he's right on money and right on par with them. He puts up better numbers and amazing numbers. But like I said, we can't knock the fact that this era is a lot different than the ones of the past. How many teams do you know in the year 2000, 26 years ago, are going to let their center be essentially the point guard of their offense? Think about that. How many centers do you know were the focal point of passing the ball? It's a different era. So, his numbers are great because of his usage rate. He kind of is making all the decisions. Now, do I think there's other players who could have done that in the past? Yes. Do I think the coaches would be willing to accept that? No. Now, it's a different era of basketball. So think about it. If we're asking Nikola Jokic to go back into the era, we're asking him to be a back against the basket guy, get his position in the post, set picks and things of that nature. But he's not bringing the ball up, and we're not throwing him the ball at the top of the key and him having to go through different motions and different actions to see what the offense is going to kind of give and what the defense is going to give. He's not making those decisions. He has a point guard making those decisions, and therefore he's just going to have less opportunities to have his hands at the ball. Therefore, he has less opportunities to create offense, which means less points, which means less assists, right? And then we're not talking about a league that's shooting threes, so now there's less long rebounds, and the fact that he plays now where there's no bigs, I mean, he's boxing out usually guys that are like 3 and D guys, you know what I mean? It's not like he's boxing out David Robinson or Ben Wallace or Rasheed Wallace or Jermaine O'Neal or Tim Duncan or Akeem Olajuwon. We're no longer battling for the boards against those guys. So it's just a whole different type of league, and I think comparing them to the centers of the time where there was other centers that were great and when it was actually real big man battles, it's far too existent now for us to kind of really assess how Jokic could play, and it's not his fault, but like I said, the media, a lot of the guys who are out there just kind of propelled him more than I think he needed to have, but it's only because he's playing that well, and I think it's amazing how well he's playing. But that's where I come with the fork in the road with my assessment of Nikola Jokic's NBA career. So these are my thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you guys think. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe, and I'm going to see y'all in the next one. Peace.